Exceptional Radio.
Good evening. I feel like it's been forever, but it's really only been like a week. I think that means I've been busy or been occupied. I don't even know what's going on in the media right now. That's actually like the state of things. Like Ozzy Osbourne died. I didn't find out till like, the end of the day. Apparently Hulk Hogan also checked out too.
Yeah, pretty close. It was like what, 24 hours later. Yeah. I mean, as far as when they released the news. So,
Oh yeah.
I wonder how long. Sometimes I wonder if they like will wait to announce shit and make it seem like something happened the next day when it's like, oh, he probably died like last night or some shit.
It's hard to say. Like, I think when there's like some kind of physical damage, like somebody, you know, I think the current term is unalives themselves, like in a car, or they, something happens like an accident, catastrophic accident. That stuff makes the news like right away. But when it's a public figure and they're old and they haven't really been in the spotlight for a while, it's interesting how those things get handled. I think it's like it's one of those times where like mainstream media tries to be as like, you know, gloved hand as possible and treat everything like it's fragile.
Like they'll run ads on it.
Yeah, that's also fucked up.
Which is like, I've started.
But man, like when Kobe, when that helicopter crashed, everyone knew about it within minutes because also superstar, but like because there was like physical damage and the media is all on top of it. But that doesn't happen for people who are like taking it easy in their deathbed, hospice suite, bedroom, wherever, bathroom. I think that's actually kind of cool, because when I pull up like Google News, let's see, reported trespasser faces felony battery charge. Um, Retirees face an $18,000 benefit cut in 7 years. Um, SIG may have just killed an airman. Let's see what else.
Oh no, they definitely did. They definitely did. The news came out yesterday. I think it was yesterday, the day before, and then they put out that apology basically. So it's like, no, they definitely did. And I guess what was it that I think the FBI had declared that it was an unsafe service weapon. So it was like the military should not have been using it still.
Oh, the I don't know what it is. I read about it though. It's
A fucking gun, basically.
It's a pistol that'll go off in the holster.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a holster that's supposed to prevent any action of the trigger at all, and it'll just go off.
Yep.
No. I've seen other videos where SIG firearms, where once they're chambered, all of a sudden, bang, you just barely breathe on them and they fire. And so that's one of those things like, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like really scary. That's not supposed to happen.
Meanwhile, a plane almost collided with a B-52 because the radio tower didn't let them know that they were close, and everything's falling apart so fast. I mean, it was already falling apart, but it's like, even down to, I was thinking about yesterday how right we were about the Elon and Trump inevitable fallout that has happened, but has gotten so much worse. And like we're not even through the first year, and it's already everything's falling apart. And now the Streisand effect is working overdrive on the Epstein files, and like it's insane to watch this shit. They I've never seen such an Icarus moment in real time where motherfuckers were just like flying too high and they thought they could just keep going higher. And now everything is crashing down so quickly where I I knew, I mean, we said it was gonna happen, but it's a matter of it didn't it didn't seem like it was gonna happen that fast.
I actually expected it to take another like 5 or 7, 9, 11 years. Some number of years. It's going to take a while, but they keep blowing. SpaceX keeps blowing up their stuff, and everyone's hype about it. Like, is it firework culture has just taken over, and we don't actually want to get anything in space. We just want to blow big shit up.
Meanwhile, Tesla opened up a diner because their fucking
Diner?
cars are failing.
A diner? Oh my god.
And they sell 4 slices of bacon for $12. Yes, I'm not making that up.
Oh my god.
4 slices of bacon for $12.
I mean, what kind of what denomination of U.S. currency does one have to be able to use for toilet paper to be able to buy 4 strips of bacon for $12 and not wince?
At this point, I don't even know who what the demographic is that's left as Elon fanboys, because it's not even just full on right wing maggots anymore. It's like, are they just really in the full on Elon cult is what it feels like, because that's the only person I can imagine paying $4 or yeah, fucking $3 per slice of bacon.
That's like
And
that makes like an airport food pricing seem reasonable.
you know,
Oh
well,
my god, what the?
and on that note, it's not as bad
You can buy a
outside of New
platter.
York.
You can buy like one of those square trays of airport sushi for less than $12. You get a big airport sushi tray for $12.
Yeah. I was amazed at the airport food in California recently was not terribly priced. And then in Colorado it was not great, but it was still also not terribly priced in a way where
You're like, I'm
even in
stuck here. I gotta eat
Indianapolis
something.
shit is crazy.
Yeah.
But New York is like really bad.
Oh, you just don't eat in an airport in New York.
Mhm.
You consume a bunch of like no dos and you just ride it out.
It's such a
Wait
gamble
till you get on the
to eat
plane.
the airport food anyway,
Yeah.
but um I think the culture in California is such that everything is so farm to table. Outside of LA, I'm assuming that I think even at the airport it ends up being some like farm to table shit. Because I'm fairly positive that the deli sandwich I had was farm to table or farm to counter in that case. Um, but it's like it there are certain places you just can't sell bad food where other places you can get away with selling bad food, and that's where I think like um California, it's hit or miss as far it's a giant state, so some areas have a much better cuisine culture than others, but Detroit, it's like, you can't have bad food here. And even in like Bloomington's weird in that certain places you can always get a standard, but it's only gonna hit that standard. Whereas then there's no like Brazilian steakhouse in Bloomington. The closest is Zagreb's, and it's not bad. It's just
It's
not.
not a Brazilian steakhouse.
No, no, it's not even. It's not the same experience remotely. And that's where even Indianapolis is like hit or miss because they can get away with, so the restaurants there can get away with subpar serve cuisine like one night of the week, if not multiple nights of the week, because people have no other choice.
I don't know. It's been a while since I, went out to eat anywhere in Indianapolis with any regularity, but I never found anything really remarkable. I found some like, there's a I think it's like Fa Saigon. That place is all right, but nothing remarkable. It's just a pho place. I'm sure that they made whatever those sandwiches are called. Uh, Banh mi, is that it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, banh mi,
And,
Vietnamese.
yeah, and there were a few places that were all right, but I don't think that Indianapolis is um, diverse enough and rich enough in in ethnic diaspora to really support like high end cuisine other than Americana. I just never really got that impression. There were a
Well,
few places where I had really good barbecue once, but then the follow up was not good. And but then there are also the chains. Like Oceaneers is a chain, and so they've got a standard, like you were saying. Um, Ruth's Chris is a chain. They've got. I'm convinced that they've got like their own beef farm thing going on where they can really control their cattle supply. Um,
oh, I imagine. And even then, I bet they probably just butcher their own meat, in that
yeah,
butchering
they
gives
control
such
the
a
whole
cost
process.
advantage.
Yeah, they control the entire process.
Yeah.
Same thing with like well, similarly, I'd hope with like St. Elmo's, they like probably buy their own cattle. Um, that's a high quality experience. Every time I've been there, it's been absolutely excellent. You know, fantastic steak. But like that's I guess those are the examples I can think of. But two out of those three are chains.
Right. Well, and I don't even think the chain has.
Well,
It's
I
not
think the chain means that they have the, purchasing power because they are
right,
supplying across multitude of locations.
but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a steak cooked by somebody who is like giving that individual steak love. In that, the best steak I ever had cooked by somebody else, the dude was literally singing to the food, and you could hear him from the like out in the like um in the cafe, like the cafeteria area or whatever you call it. You could hear that he was playing music, but he was like singing, and that's where I'm like, you don't. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody singing to the food while they're cooking in the way that like
I'm imagining a guy
he
wearing
wasn't
like
singing
a
to himself. He
wearing
was
like a
singing to
chef's
the
cap
food.
and an apron, like singing some retro funk, like while he's like grilling your steak.
Pretty much. But again, that's like having that experience. It was like it's not about how much anything costs. It's all about the attention that's paid to the process, and then seeing, Brazil steakhouses where they have the people who cook the meat bring it around. And so seeing the pride on somebody's face after they've cooked something and you're like really into it and they get to see you into it, there's a difference between somebody who takes pride and cares about the person enjoying their meal, and it's not always gonna look like um a steakhouse, or it's not always gonna look like a gourmet restaurant, but a gourmet restaurant doesn't always have those things either. So it's this weird
What was the name of
I
that guy down in Broad Ripple with the hole in the wall gyro shop? That guy was awesome. He made great sandwiches at like 1 in the morning. Like at 1 in the morning on a Thursday or Friday night or
huh,
Saturday night. They were like,
which
it's like,
oh
I know you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what the guy's name was, but I can't
was
remember.
it Parthenon?
I think so.
Yeah,
It was
Parthenon.
like right
Yeah.
next to an alleyway, and
Yeah. Because they had like a sit down, but he must have done uh
he had like there was
like
like
weekend stuff
there
too.
was like two chairs and a really tiny mini table
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
a little chiller for sodas and like a counter, and he would just walk back. I remember at one point he had a shawarma wheel or a log or whatever that they're called on their on the that rotating roaster thing that they've got, and oh man, that was so good. I'm sure that my memory it thinks or is better than like the reality
No,
because
probably not, because there's a reason you hold on to that memory, in that I have that kind of attachment to Taste of Chicago gyros, but it's like I remember the first time I smelled gyros from afar, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And like following my nose to find it, and then from that point on, it was like chasing that dragon. But I know that the memory I have attached to it is exactly what I think it is, because I've had similar experiences from that, when it's like, oh, this that is my quintessential idea of what a gyro or gyros tastes like. And it's like, from I realize I was lucky enough to have a really uh traditional exposure to, or exposure to a traditional version of the dish in my first one, so I wasn't getting like a bastardized like European version.
or the Arby's version.
Right, exactly. It could have been it could have been the Arby's
The
version.
Arby's
And
version is like
so
it's so foul.
I'm so lucky that my first introduction to that dish wasn't through Arby's. And a lot of people are not that lucky.
Oh
And
man.
so that's where I think the diversity has more influence on the overall quality than the necessary like the gourmet aspect, in that here one of the dishes I've seen is corned beef egg rolls, and there's variation on it, but it's 100% regional. I've never seen it anywhere else. I'm sure they've adapted it somewhere else, but I know it's definitely like a Detroit creation. But there's variations in that some places will have kraut, some places will have Swiss cheese, some won't have the Swiss, some won't have the kraut. And so some will serve with the duck sauce, some will serve with like um uh an aioli. And so seeing all these different variations, I'm like, oh, this is what happens when there's a bunch of diversity, but everybody's got something to bring to the table. And then it all mixes together. Cause it's like you you have to have good quality Asian food, and you have to have good quality um deli meats for that to occur. Like
Yeah.
otherwise it can't happen and be good. You might have it happen, and it's like it gives you
Well,
good
regional
mouth
fusion is
feels,
crazy. There,
but it destroys your gut.
there's like I've seen like what are the TV reality TV stuff where like people go to like Louisiana and try like the like Chinese style Cajun cuisine where they'll utilize like Cajun ingredients but use like Cantonese wok techniques. And there's part of me that's kind of curious, like man, I wonder how that works. Because if someone's willing to make a TV show about it, then that means there's some kind of there's some inertia behind it. Because I don't think those shows just materialize unless whatever they're doing already has its own kind of you know mass behind it. But that kind of stuff is always really fascinating to me. Like, what kind of how do those things even emerge? And also, like, where do I get some? Because because do I really have to go to like Louisiana? Do I have to go to Detroit? It's actually not a problem. I'd rather go to Detroit than drive to Louisiana right now. But we live in the future. It'd be pretty rad if we could just like spread that kind of food love.
Yeah, and it's totally worth a day trip, if not, a couple days trip, because it's so close.
Yeah.
But in that you can also, the weed is so cheap now. After going to California and seeing the weed market there, that's where I'm like, oh shit, Detroit really has the best weed market of anywhere. Um, the fucking ounces here, there's shake ounces that are getting as low as like $15, which you know it's like you the way that like shake ounces are 15, 20, $25, but it's also like a $15 shake ounce will be 18%, 20% THC. A $20 shake ounce will be 25, 28% THC. A $30 shake ounce will be 30% THC. And so it's like,
does anybody really need that to induce like anxiety like that though? Like at that pricing scale?
well, and it's funny you should say that in that now after being on that THC scale, it's like only the wax will give me anxiety or make me feel like I'm on edge because I'm too high. But it's you get because it's so cheap, you're spending $20 maybe a week smoking 28% THC weed all the like whenever you feel like it, so you don't feel like you have to ration. And so it's at this point where when you can smoke weed whenever you want and not think about it, I feel like you smoke less, but also it's not as like
It's like food security
exactly in a way where
or healthcare security or housing
when
security.
you have weed security, it allows you to like open up another part of your brain to think about other things because you're like confident that you don't have to worry about the weed guy not picking up the phone, which is where I hate that fucking Pineapple Express shit, man. It's like on the one hand, I enjoy the non-corporate culture, but seeing the way dispensaries also are not always corporate and there is like a mom and pop local aspect to it. Fuck the weed guy. That shit just needs to go. I'm of the mind that the weed guy culture it just needs to die. Like that Pineapple Express. Like once Pineapple Express made it made everyone realize that we're all going through the same shit when it comes to dealing with people, whether you're on the customer side or on the seller side. It's like I hate the notion of people pretending that they're my friend to buy or sell weed. And that was like 100% of part of that process when you didn't know the person already. So it's like, and then there's the whole narc aspect. So man, I'm so glad to see the weed guy dying, and that's where I'm like, I didn't I didn't think I would necessarily come to that conclusion before, because California dispensary culture is not the same either. Um, there's just, I think,
I think I would actually be fine if there were no dispensaries, if we were just allowed to grow it for our own selves.
right. I mean, but even then, it's like when you have the capacity to grow, but it's also, even with like free electricity, it's when it's so cheap, it's like it's almost too cheap to even like spend time thinking about growing it. Then it's like,
No, I
yeah,
mean,
it
I get that, but like, I think the big hurdle that still seems to be, or the big roadblock really is that it's difficult to tax because it's a like the majority of it is cash exchange, and so there's a lot of potential for fraud. Um, banks are just now starting to figure out ways to like work with merchants because that's also a big deal.
I mean, they've been shutting them out.
Yeah,
They wouldn't work with them. That's it. It's not they couldn't figure it out. They just wouldn't.
yeah,
So that's like why the weed dispensaries were so dangerous and had to work with cash, is because they literally aren't allowed to, like, federal banks
yeah.
won't work with them,
They won't.
and
They're not
so they can't get
insurable
point of
accounts.
sale systems that
Yeah,
won't just operate like a is basically like an ATM
yeah.
at any time they use a card. So it's like it's fucking stupid. It's like
It really
they
is.
they
It's
are setting these people up to operate on cash and only cash, to then be like, oh, they can launder money. Well, it's like, yeah, give them a fucking banking option,
well.
you know?
I think that's the dilemma. Is like they've been put in a situation where the only way they can actually get the money into the system is by laundering it.
I mean,
That's
in a way,
that's
for
the
sure,
fucked
but
up
it's
part.
like they here's the issue though. They pay like, or I pay as a customer 17% tax on every transaction. So it's like they're getting their money.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's it's a matter of them taking money and then not giving protection. So it's bullshit, which is why people go around the law. So it's like, yeah, if I'm gonna like pay a 17% tax and then see the government not giving them the option to bank, yeah, I'm gonna go and get around the tax as much as fucking possible. So I don't think that you're wrong in pointing that out. More so in seeing the way it plays out. It's like, this is why politicians
Are dumb.
should be taken out of everything. And that's where I'm like, they're putting AI everywhere except for fucking politics for some reason.
How do we
You
know
know,
it's not already in politics? There's a
I
lot of
mean,
wackadoodle shit
because
happening.
if anything, it's because it's vindictive and AI doesn't feel like that that's what's more indicative of AI, not than anything. Is like our political system is 100% about petty, vindictive bullshit, and that's just like AI is not there yet. It's not capable of being petty, which is it's fun. I don't know if AI will ever be capable of being petty. Um, Obviously at the manipulation of the human hand, but it's just one of those things where there's an art to being petty that it's a level of creativity that I don't know. Again, as obviously it's somewhat facetious, but in the reality of like every human's not good at being petty. So that's where I'm like, there's master level petty uh artists that dish out. It don't even always have to be revenge. Sometimes it can just be the bite of wit and newly created self-awareness that sometimes people need to have delivered to them at an encounter where they were not prepared for it. So it actually gets through to their fucking ego when they're usually able to put up defense mechanisms and keep the ego protected from any sort of actual critique or
You just reminded me of an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where uh, Larry David needs to use the restroom in this coffee shop. They won't let him, so he rents the space right next to it, opens up a coffee shop with a restroom that he can use.
that exactly.
Yeah.
Larry David is like, he is god tier petty in character, but in like real life too. I've like seen his interviews, and most of his interviews are just him recounting stories about being petty, where he's just like, somebody pissed me off and I was the most passively aggressive petty that one human could possibly be, with all this money and the time. He's got time to be petty, and that's what's so beautiful. You know, I used to watch Curb, but it got to like, I couldn't do cringe after a while. It's just, cringe is too cognitive dissonance inducing to like do that to myself voluntarily. And the only reason I even used to watch it is because I didn't understand it, and I still don't understand it, but I know now that I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, well, that's
So
I think the problem with all of the cringe stuff is that eventually that's all it is, and when everything is cringe, then nothing is cringe because you're just watching trash. Like it can only happen for a brief second. It's an accent. It's an exclamation point. It's a firework. It can't last. And any time like comedy relies on sustained cringe factor, it just starts feeling like you're just hearing the sound of garbage over and over again. It's just I think that's why a lot of comedy is changing. I think we're actually seeing a lot of the reaction to like changing social views, and it's being reflected in comedy. I'm seeing less racist comedy, which is nice. I was really hoping that like the weird racist comic era was going to come to an end, but after that Joe was his face, that God, Joe Coy, that dude. Anyway, after his like on stage debacle, it seems like a lot of
wait, what debacle?
he said a bunch of racist shit on stage.
Well, the only reason I'm asking is because I watched the Manny Pacquiao fight versus Mario Barrios.
It was the Golden Globes monologue.
Oh, I did not see that, but
That was like
I came to the conclusion.
It was a long time ago, but I think after that, like things started to change.
Well, they must have forgiven him because they were showing him all over the Pacquiao fight, where I'm like, he must be the second most famous Filipino person. Where then I'm like, that's a short list if Joe Coy is number 2 behind Pacquiao. And then I was like, who the fuck's number 3? And I'm like, oh shit, I don't know who's number 3. Can anybody name number 3 without Googling in America? Which is like, that's the American market, and I'm sure.
So the next most famous, who no, he's not even Filipino. He's half Indonesian. Never mind.
No, see, there you go. I know you were about to say no, yes, no, not Filipino.
Yeah.
So yes, that's my point. That's my point, bro. Which again, it's like, I think it's funny, and the only reason I even said that is because they had Joe Coy all over the Pacquiao thing. It was like every time they would cut to somebody, it was like 3 people, and then back to Joe Coy. Joe Coy's here, and I'm like, really? Is this the Joe Coy's like the best we got tonight? And it just really highlighted like there there were other celebrities at the event, but I can't remember. I think they made sure that Joe Coy was the most famous person there that was not Pacquiao. Yeah, but also the second most famous Filipino. Again, that's I anybody who's like that's racist. Well, can you name number 3 without Googling it? Anybody who because it's not racist. It's definitely not. It's more so. I think that highlights the American market is so fetishist about Asian cultures that it's like
so
you get so much
in the
one
top 5. Manny Pacquiao is number 6, or in the top 8. Manny's number 6, and I don't recognize any
in America.
Just top.
No. Then he's number 1.
I asked Google top 5 most famous Filipinos, and
you should have said in America in that what you get, and that's where I mean that's what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I'm sure in the Philippines somebody but that's not who I'm talking to
Bruno
or about.
Mars, Olivia Rodrigo, Dave Bautista.
Bruno Mars is Filipino ethnicity, but he's American. Manny Pacquiao is actually Filipino like nationality. I'm fairly positive Bruno Mars was like born in America in like Vegas or something, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I think his parents are ethnic. As far as like, he's definitely ethnic, but as far as I'm talking nationality because I'm pretty sure. I thought Joe Coy was actually Filipino too, or maybe he's an immigrant or like second generation.
Let's see, Lou Diamond Phillips is on this list.
Huh.
So is Rob Schneider. This is a pretty weird list.
Rob Schneider?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No. He's like a proud white man that makes fun of other races and is all like running that grift. No,
he's on the
not
list
Filipino.
of top 5 most famous Filipino-born citizens in America. That's my Google search. He's number 9 on the grid. I'm not seeing any part of this. Let's see.
No, this is some blood quantum bullshit. Oh, no. His mother was half Filipino, not. So he's like 1/8 blood quantum, and he was not raised fucking Filipino culture. So no, I refuse to accept Rob Schneider's blood quantum.
He's a Irish Filipino Jew. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's that blood quantum shit, man. And that's I realized once I learned about Native law, and once I realized like, oh, if you're like part of a nation, you like legally part of a nation, like, oh, my grandma being Cherokee, that doesn't count, bro. That shit does not count. And once I learned that shit, that's where I realized how people use blood quantum to then fucking appropriate shit that they shouldn't be appropriating, especially when it's like you got people who don't want to acknowledge other people's cultures and then be like, oh, I'm Rob Schneider, I'm Filipino. No, nigga, you are not Filipino. No. Now you're American. Now we're gonna pull that shit. Oh, I'm African American. Yeah, that you're not Filipino American. You're just American. You're just butter bread, Wonder Bread, fucking
Yeah.
white. That grandma was half or Filipino, and my mom, nope,
I don't have any
nope.
illusion, any illusions that I know what it's like to be a 44-year-old man in China. Like none. I have no idea what that's like. I can't pretend to know what that's about. I mean, I have a vague idea based off of what like makes it through the Great Firewall, but even then, even then, it's hard to tell like what's real.
Oh yeah.
I
I
think if
mean,
anything, like the AI thing has made it even more difficult to tell. Like, is this some propaganda, or is this? Oh nope, that's a weird fifth like or sixth digit on their hand. Now their foot's turning into a third leg. Like we know it's AI, but some of the AI stuff is really good. I think there must be some like genius Sora prompt masters out there who have like really figured it out. Like the Yeti or Bigfoot people, the ones who do the Yeti and Bigfoot, where it's just like some wook at a festival talking about eating mushrooms or finding a forest ranger, stuff like that. Those are really good. Um, but then I still see a bunch that are just like really well dressed crap. Like there's no real continuity, and things are getting really weird in the fringes. It's getting a lot better though. There are a lot of things where I know that like the amount of time that was put into the prompts that created whatever series of images that I just watched, moving images, like there is definitely a lot of creativity behind it. But at the same time, I wonder like would a like an animation department or would they would they have been able to do the same thing in the same amount of time? Is it really saving money?
I mean, it's saving someone money. It may not be saving money total in the long, but is that enough for them to go that route long term is also a question. I don't know if that's the reputational loss that is associated with it may may or may not be worth it. The market will decide, but I think we have yet to see, and it's still playing out. Like we don't know what part of the cycles we're in until they've finished. Um, and it feels like we're in one part, but even with crypto, it felt like the cycle was over, but now it's more in like a trying to think what's the closest thing. Let's have a cycle to crypto. I want to say Pokemon cards probably have had the closest cycle to crypto in that um they have their phases and there's like key cards that never go down in value. Same thing with comics, but the market definitely fluctuates as far as how much money is getting traded daily and the daily volumes and daily liquidity and all that. And that's only one metric. Um, but adoption is also another one in terms of there are starting to be more blockchain projects, but they're not necessarily crypto projects. So, or cryptocurrency projects. So it's like, it's
Oh, so
weird.
so they still have tokens, but the tokens aren't valuated in any kind of way.
I mean, yes, the tokens are valuated by the market trades, but the systems that are being used for blockchain operation don't really have anything to do with tokens. So that's where I mean, like, the way that people made it seem like tokens are going to be attached to these blockchain systems because they made it seem like blockchains need cryptocurrency tokens is not how things are playing out. But then the market is not, like, the trading market's not really reflecting that either.
Why can't a ledger just be used as a store of data?
Right, exactly. And it's like, yeah, a token does not operate the same as a stock, and people aren't treating it the same as a stock. So that promise was never fulfilled, and it's never going to be fulfilled.
You know, like a token could be used as like a key. It could let somebody into something that is worth something. That in itself would be valuable, but like on its own,
I mean, but that's already how it's used. It's just not a literal token.
I know. We need to turn it into a literal token.
I mean, do we? Because again, it's like
like a flash drive. You just let it hover over a little thing, and you can access your token's data storage.
right, but
I know it's a physical wallet. They tried that. It was a nightmare.
but even then, it's like, okay, let me ask you this: if we have a subway, would it be better to use tokens on the subway, or just let the people who use the subway use it for free and let it run all the time?
Well, my conscious self knows that if it was just running and it was just made available, it would benefit a large variety or a larger population, and it would probably improve economics across the area that it operates. Um, let's see here. My dad sold like 5 New York City subway tokens not too long ago for $15.
Well, and it's like
Like vintage subway tokens.
it's super obvious when it's framed that way, but the issue is people don't aren't made to realize, like, those things exist. And the for example, like, the Q line here was made free because the private company operating it wasn't making enough money, and they were just going to shut it down. And so instead, the city's like, okay, we're gonna, or the state is like, they bought it and made it free. And then, as you alluded to, it started to help the economy thrive more because it served more people. More people have transportation available.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Transportation security is
yeah.
difficult. Cars are not cheap. Maintenance
And
isn't
so
free.
having that type of transportation security from east to west made it so that, like, yeah, there's a lot more people who can have move around town and like be sure that they'll be able to, and not have to worry about, like, oh, am I gonna have to try to find an Uber or find a friend, or, like, I'm just not gonna be able to work and have transportation security because I don't have any form of public transportation, let alone one that's available for free, that runs all the time. I mean, I think it stops at midnight, but again, it's like it runs every day.
Does anyone really need to be out after midnight?
I mean, not really, but there are people who work that late,
Yeah.
and that's where I think those places generally shut down close to when it's stops running. But, like, there are a couple bars down there where I'm like, I'm assuming those people are fine, but it if a business operates within a district, that district should like ensure that that business has access to public transit during operation hours if they want the patrons to be safe. Not just about,
Yeah.
oh, you should do it. Like, if the city wants those people to be safe, then they should be operating public transit during. So there are things that, as far as like, is it profitable? Yes or no. But does it keep people safer? Yes. And so that's where it's
Well,
like
I mean,
on
there's probably like
the
it might not be profitable, but there's an economic stimulus value of economic stimulus that is, probably,
intangible.
yeah, it's just greater on a level that allows the city to function, whereas it's a mere, it's a bunch of worthless coins basically to keep it running.
Exactly. And so that's where, uh, you know, looking at the way things work and how some things work better than others, there is, and for example, like if you have a Michigan, or I think it's a Wayne County ID, you can go to the art museum for free, but
Okay.
it's not free. It's because people who make more than $250,000 pay a tax that subsidizes everybody else in Wayne County who doesn't make $250,000 to be able to go enjoy the art museum. So this is where I'm like, everything in Michigan doesn't work, but there are certain things where I've seen it work, and the net result is an intangible, encultured growth that doesn't necessarily directly show in like dollars, but it shows in like, if there's an art gallery opening, it's full. If there's a music event that's like an independent local artist, it's packed. People show up to art and to art events in ways that they don't in other places, because they are seeking culture, but they are also fostered into allowing them to engage in that culture in a way that I don't see other places. And so that's where I'm like, there's like an art opening that I need to go to because a friend is like, they just had a gallery open, but it's like that type of stuff, you can't do it everywhere, because Indiana, for example, like nobody shows up. And it's like, after so many times, it becomes defeating and you don't want to do it anymore because you feel like nobody pays attention. But seeing
Man, I've been
the
to a few
shit
of
here,
those big competitive gallery events where everyone's like trying to get everyone else's attention because,
right?
oh, come and look at my booth. I've got three walls, three tarp walls, just covered with so much stuff that there's not an opportunity to look at anything.
Oh, it's the gallery openings I've been to here, or the exhibit openings I've been to here, are so different in that I feel like it's the thing people were chasing in um San Francisco and like uh what is it, the Ashbury Heights,
Oh,
or
hate Ashbury.
Hate Ashbury, and like Greenwich Village, and like that in the 60s in New York and on the coast, that art culture where art was actually happening, even down to them creating happenings and inventing happenings as an art experience. That's where I feel that now in a way that I never really felt it in Bloomington or Indianapolis, um, and even in like California, I never really felt it. But I know I felt it at raves, and I know you felt it at raves. Not every rave, especially once the rave act hit, it was more and more fleeting to the point that it became like a dragon that all of the middle-aged ravers were chasing. that nobody could find, but then it was like in the festival scene that that specific dragon moved, and it was like, yeah, you can find that dragon again, but you got to go like
Also, speaking of
not
festivals,
shower for
not only
days.
was Lars right, and we're old enough to admit it, but Lars saved freaking Tomorrowland. That's the coolest stuff. They're like, oh, you guys have a problem. We're gonna send you all over freaking sound system.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool story.
Festivals are really crazy. Like when I watch like any kind of documentary or like behind the scenes stuff, when they set up those stages, it's like it's beyond a normal like arena performance. It's like a full on theatrical stage, but crazier because there's no one really walking around on it. There's like a DJ nested inside some other set series of props sometimes, or like Ultra, they set the DJ booth underneath a giant arch. Like that's just crazy.
Well, and it's like I see the festivals and I'm like, man, I really that makes me understand people who are like out there doing drugs and stuff like at these things, because it's like never in your life would you imagine walking into some of these displays where they might have a room full of mirrors and lasers, or
I mean,
they set it up to look like an alien ship on the inside, or there's a lot of creativity that goes into these things.
I've seen Dead Mouse's Cube, which is pretty impressive, and I've seen
Oh
Amon,
yeah,
and I've seen
Dat Six,
and I've
fucking
seen
screen.
Amon Tobin's
Jesus.
freaking projection performance stuff, and it's also incredible. But like Tomorrowland, man, that thing is like, the entire horizon. You can't look anywhere without seeing some giant thing that they've constructed to just to melt minds and warp perception, and of course they're playing sped up electronic music, so everything feels all discombobulated. The stuff that goes on now is like, I think it's pretty much beyond anything that anyone imagined raves could have been like in the 90s or 2000s. I don't think anyone in the 2000s who were like holding on before everything turned into festivals. I don't think anyone was just, the closest thing they had was like Burning Man, and that was like a got to be a part of the club to go to Burning Man kind of thing.
Well,
And
and I went to
EDC didn't really happen yet.
one of the spin-offs of that, and it was like, yeah, it's an experience. And again, it's like, yeah, I can understand the people who take drugs, and like it totally makes you want to take drugs, but it's also like if you don't, there's also a whole different experience to be had from that type of shit. I think the predisposition to want to include drugs into things prevents people from having other types of
And
experiences.
the best experience that I've ever had at a festival was just being completely sober and just trying to
Oh, same.
keep up with everyone who was on drugs, because they were all fueled by some synthetic thing, and the only things I had were like caffeine, nicotine, and some weed. And at a point I was like delirious because I hadn't had enough sleep, and I was probably dehydrated, and all sorts of shit, standing around in the sun. But after a while, it's like, man, this is a whole other kind of experience. Your brain starts releasing its own chemicals to keep you from going crazy.
Well, and I don't know. I know you've been to Ohio for raves, but the best rave I ever went to, I realized that everybody there was effectively sober. There was weed smoke there, but nobody was doing acid or
Was it in Dayton?
ecstasy. Oh yeah,
That was
in like the Ohio Breakers, I
Yeah,
think
that was
Twilight Sleep performance.
there was like an entire subculture of straight edge ravers
Oh
and straight edge
yeah, I love
raves
that shit,
in
man. That was my
Western
favorite place
Ohio.
to go.
That was the coolest scene because like I never saw the only time I ever saw anybody who was like, you know, out of their mind. They were from like, Wisconsin and they came all the way to Ohio because they heard about the parties in Dayton. And I thought that was super cool.
Dayton, they also had the drug testing, and but that's also the first time I've seen there was a place where there was a cuddle puddle in the basement, and everybody there basically was made. They weren't made to feel shameful, but you could tell they felt shameful because nobody else at the party was rolling, and it was like it was very obvious that there was only maybe a handful of people actually on drugs.
Oh
And
yeah,
that,
well,
yeah, that's why I
the
love that venue
dude,
specifically.
the basement of the Dayton Gym Club is so weird. You would go down there and be reminded of all the things that you didn't want to be a part of, like didn't want to encounter at the
Right.
rave, and then you went back up into the main room into that giant like basketball court where it just sounded huge because surrounded by wooden bleachers and everything's just resonating. The room is just alive, and like, man, I'm in the right spot because that basement fucking sucked.